All right, we are at 4 p.m. and we are recording right now. So, Mr. Ramesh, we can begin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. William. And my name is Ramesh, and I'm from Stand for All Makerspace, and we are a community-based center to promote STEM education. So we have done a lot of activities like workshops and innovation projects, makers projects to make sure that kids enjoy learning STEM. But of course, during these difficult times of this lockdown, we have no choice but to do programs online. So we're very grateful to Captain Kannan for arranging some very distinguished speakers, right? So this whole series of talks, we call it our STEM webinar series. We had so far 3 that was arranged by Captain Kannan. We had a talk on the air traffic control, we had a talk on engines, and we had a talk on environment. So boys and girls who are following us, if you need to find out more about these programs, please stay tuned with us. I will share the link and you can get to know more about these programs. And our whole objective is to make learning more interesting, enjoyable by hearing from the industry experts, right? So without further ado, today's session is about the science of rotorcraft. So you may ask, what is rotorcraft? So let's hear it from the experts. What is a rotorcraft? And this is a journey from within Rmaf, right? So we are very privileged to have Brigadier General Dato Tuan Mustapha bin Hussein, right? So he has got many years of experience to share. And we also have Captain Kannan, who's an airline pilot, who's very passionate about his job and also about education. So he's the one who said, let's do this series of talks. And so we are here for him to moderate this session. So without further ado, Captain, I'll pass this virtual space to you to moderate the session and also, of course, to introduce our speakers. Captain, to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks, Mr. Ramesh, Mr. William, and also I think Muhammad Noor. I'm not so familiar with him yet. Again, welcome everyone. This webinar, which is the main purpose is for the STEM. That is our overall purpose, to encourage all of you, whoever is listening, especially the young kids, school goers, and maybe some from the colleges, to enhance the involvement with STEM, because there is some report saying that there's a shortage of STEM-related students. So this is one we want to encourage through this type of program. And also another reason is that we want to give awareness of what are the jobs that's available if you are good in STEM. You know, what are the interesting jobs that is available if you get involved in STEM education. Basically, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and why you should concentrate and study this in schools. All right. Again, we also like to engage the educators, parents, and also community. As what Mr. Ramesh said, my intention is to bring the industry people. You know, so eventually you will end up in industry, and you need to know whether it's good or not good. You know, whether how interesting is it if you get involved in this type of job, which is very difficult for you to go and find out yourself. So that is one of the reasons that we want to provide and this type of webinar that you can sit at home and listen. To get into an Air Force base is very difficult, and today we bring Brigadier General, a retired Brigadier General Tuan Mustapha, who has experience about 35 years flying helicopters and involved in all kind of operations in the Royal Malaysian Air Force. Right. So today he will share with us his experience and also all the interesting stuff he have done over the years, so that all of you can learn, all of us can learn. And importantly, if you have any question arises in your mind during his presentation, please write it down. You can also post it in the chat, and then we will pick up from there. And then towards the end, once Tuan Mustapha has finished his talk, then we will address as much as questions that you all asking. Right. So I will now hand over to Tuan Mustapha for his presentation. Now it's 5 minutes. Okay, so he will be maybe about 30 to 40 minutes, and then after that we will start with the question and answer.
Okay.
Right, go ahead, please take over from here.
Ramesh, if you can share the slide, please. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everybody. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Brig Gen Dato Tuan Mustapha. I'm retired from the Air Force after 36 years of service in 2017 and has been working with BHIC Aero Services for the last 4 years. Yeah. So we will start with the presentation. Can you guys see the slide that is being shown by Mr. Ramesh?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you talk about helicopters, I would like to start with an animal called the hummingbird, which can fly forward, backward, and even upside down. They are.
I think we are still in the first slide.
Yeah, can we go to the second slide, please? This is a very, very short video on the hummingbird, yeah? There is a helicopter squadron, I think, in New Zealand who call their squadron the Hummingbirds.
Oh.
A very interesting animal. I think the only bird that can hover.
Do you have the name in Malay, that bird?
I do not know. We call it the hummingbird, yeah.
All right.
So if you can see the video, the bird can hover, can fly backwards, just like helicopters. So that will bring us to the topic of today's presentation, which is the helicopters. Can we go to the next slide?
Hello, sirs.
Okay, these are the two Sikorsky S-61 helicopters that was used by the Royal Malaysian Air Force for many years. It is our workhorse. This is one of the picture that we took from a flight display. Yeah. Next. So if you look at the overview, I'm going to cover some facts on helicopters. It is a very versatile machine. From the data that I extract from the internet, you have about 69,000 helicopters, yeah, all over the world, both military as well as civilians. Then I'm going to talk about the aerofoil, which is used as the blade for helicopters. Then we'll talk about helicopter control, rotor configuration, the major system in a helicopter, and also the types of helicopters and their various roles. Then I will cover a little bit on Rmaf, the organizational structure, and the role of helicopters in Royal Malaysian Air Force. Then I will conclude. So basically, the helicopter is a very good machine or invention which can be put to good use or bad use. Yeah. Next. So the basic science of helicopters basically is based on the Bernoulli's theorem. Simply put, where the velocity is highest, the pressure is least. So that produces lift. Next slide, please. So an aerofoil. Aerofoil is the shape of the main rotor blade as well as the tail rotor blade of the helicopter. We'll talk about this more. Yeah. Next. A little bit on the aerofoil, you have two types. One is non-symmetrical, and the second one is symmetrical aerofoil. For helicopter blade, most of the blades are symmetrical aerofoil. Next. So these are the various nomenclature for the rotor blade. You have here the leading edge, the trailing edge, then you have the chord line, and also the camber. So if you have a symmetrical aerofoil, the camber is always a straight line. It is not symmetrical, that the camber will be curved. Yeah, next. This is what happens when the blade is rotating through the air. Yeah. On the upper portion of the aerofoil, you will have a lower pressure because of the velocity. And below the blade, the pressure is higher. So the difference will give you the lift. Next. So these are the various vectors, yeah, when it is rotating. You have the center of pressure, the flight path. If you see on the slide, it's moving to our left. And also you have the relative wind, as well as the angle of incident, which is set by the pilot using the collective stick, which I will go later on when we talk about the control of the helicopters. Next. So this is a very simple diagram on all the helicopter controls. You can see you have the collective stick, which is being held normally in the cockpit by the pilot's left hand. Then you have the cyclic stick, which is held by the pilot's right hand. And you also have the yaw pedals for you to control the direction of the helicopters. Next. And you also the yaw pedals for you to the yaw pedals. Because you yaw the helicopter to the left and the right for you to maintain the directional control. Yeah. The yaw pedals. Yeah. Because you yaw the helicopter to the left and the right for you to maintain the directional control. Yeah. The yaw pedals. Yeah. Because you yaw the helicopter to the left and the right for you to maintain the directional control. Yeah. I think somebody is putting their mic on. I'm hearing my own voice from somewhere. Can you guys please mute? Yeah.
Yeah, I muted him.
Thank you. Next. You see, when the aircraft is in the harbor, can we go back to the previous slide, Mr. Ramesh? Hovering is the most difficult part when you start learning how to fly. Yeah. Quite a number of pilots spend a lot of hours learning how to hover. In the harbor, you can see the lift is equal to the weight, so it is not moving, it is stationary. Yeah. Make sure it stays. In the harbor, I keep hearing my own voice. I do not know why. Somebody must be turning on the YouTube as well as this meet. Yeah. So you have the thrust equal to the drag. So the helicopter basically is stationary and not moving. Next slide, please. So you can see in this diagram where the thrust or the lift is higher than the weight. So this is when the helicopter can climb vertically up. Yeah, the pilot do this normally when you want to take off or when you want to land into a confined space. Yeah, it has a very agile application when we do our missions. Yeah, when you do winching, when you do underslung, this is where the skill of the pilot is important for you to perform the mission that you are performing. Next, please. When you are in forward flight, we tilt the rotor of the helicopter using the cyclic stick. Yeah. So when you do push the cyclic forward, you can see there is a horizontal component of the total rotor thrust, which will enable the helicopter to move forward. If you tilt the rotor disc using your cyclic backward, then the helicopter can move slowly backward. However, there are limitations to your backward speeds, yeah, due to safety reason. Next. Now, I can either take question now for the previous part before I proceed with the major parts of the helicopter. Yeah. So as suggested, I think we keep all the questions at the end of my presentation.
Yeah, Dato, I don't see any questions in the chat. You can go ahead and continue.
Okay, if you look at this diagram, basically it shows you the various parts of the helicopter. My God, it is too small for me to see also. You have the fuselage, you have the skid or the undercarriage, then you have the engines, you have the tail boom, which house the tail rotor shaft that bring power from the main rotor, from the main gearbox to the tail rotor. And you also have the main rotor blade. Some helicopters have 2 rotor blades, some have 3, some have 4, and some have 5. And for the rotor blade, you have various configurations. There are rotor blades like the one shown in the diagram, which we call tethering head. It is like a seesaw. Then you also have a fully articulated rotor blade, and you also have a rigid rotor blade. Yeah. Next, I think you have had a session on engine. What I have shown here is a simple schematic diagram of the turboshaft engine, which is now widely used on most helicopters. If you can see, you have the inlet here. So normally the inlet guide vane will allow air to go into the engine. Most engine will have the variable guide vane to control the amount of air that goes into the combustion chamber. After it passes through the compressor, the air will be compressed. So normally the compression ratio will be some between 8 to 10. Yeah. Then the air will enter the combustion chamber, and the torch igniter will ignite. At the same time, fuel also will be injected into the combustion chamber. So when it burns, it will move the compressor turbine. Then it will turn the free power turbine, which will go to the power shaft. So when later on, when I talk about the transmission, the power shaft is basically transferring the engine power to the main gearbox. Yeah. Next. This is the helicopter transmission. It is a very complex design. You see, the power from the engine will go to the various stages of gearing before it is transmitted to the main gearbox. There will be a mixing unit to split this power and to reduce the RPM of the engine before it can go to the main rotor. It will go into the tail rotor as well. So this power is being utilized primarily to turn the main rotor blades of the helicopter. Second, to turn the tail rotor blade of the helicopter. At the same time, it's also used to run various accessories in the gearbox. You have your engine fuel pump, you have the gearbox fuel pump, you have the hydraulic fuel pump, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is a very critical system. If you have a gearbox failure, then the pilot's in trouble. An example of a gearbox failure is when you have, for example, the lubrication system of the gearbox fail, probably due to the failure of the pumps, or it leaks, then the temperature of the gearbox will increase. The pilot have to land as soon as possible. Yeah. So in our daily work, we always tell the younger pilot, you can have one engine, you can have two engines, but you only have one gearbox. So if your gearbox go unserviceable, then you are in a very serious trouble. The other problem with the transmission that you might encounter is failure of the tail drive shaft. Bring the engine power from the gearbox to your tail rotor. The tail rotor is for you to counter the top of the main rotor. Yeah. So as pilot, we have to really understand the system so that if you encounter any problem, you know what are the action that you have to take to save yourself, to save the helicopter, and most importantly, your passengers. Yeah. Next.
Dato, before you proceed, since you're talking about the control system, there's a few questions here. Would you like to answer now? Or?
Yeah, I can answer now.
Yeah. Okay, one from this Shoban Kumaran. Does the helicopter has a reverse thrust?
No.
No. Yeah.
You can reverse the helicopter when you move the cyclic rearward. But for rearward speed, it is only used for you to position the helicopter for certain mission.
Yeah.
For example, when you do hoisting, you want to rescue people from the sea, you will hover. So if your survivor in the sea move forward, you will ease the cyclic forward to position yourself overhead the survivor so that your crewman can winch the survivor up. Yeah. But if they move rearward, there is some adjustment that you have to make to move the helicopter rearwards, so that you can.
Sorry. So this term reverse thrust basically for aeroplanes lah. You know, it
For
doesn't
aeroplane,
really
it's not
apply for
applicable.
helicopter. Helicopter we just move backward or forward. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is what is the effect of the number of blades
It will
increasing?
affect the disloading.
The loading. Okay.
The loading on the rotor blade. The disloading basically is a formula of where your total weight or your total thrust in the harbor divided by the sum of the blade area.
Hmm.
Okay. The higher the disloading, the more the downwash. That's
Yeah.
why when you see helicopter landing in the dusty area, a lot of dust is being thrown around.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's also, I think, the reason is to probably increase the lift, or that's one. But of course, they have a negative effect also for that.
It is always a trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah, trade-off. Yeah.
And the other one is the smaller number of blade you have, there'll be more vibration.
Nah. Okay. So there's as you say, so as a trade-off. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Another one is what if there is one exhaust? I think what they mean is one engine. What if there was one exhaust?
What do you mean by one exhaust?
I don't really understand the question, but I do not know. Maybe it's I think what they meant is if there's only one engine.
If you have one engine, when the engine fails, all pilots are trained to land the helicopter safely by performing what we call auto rotation.
Yeah.
If you go back to simple physics, when you are flying, let's say 1,000 feet, for example, the helicopter is moving with the kinetic energy of the engine and the blades. But once the engine fails, you still have the potential energy.
Yeah. Okay.
So you will use that potential energy to maneuver the helicopter by doing auto rotation. This is one of the very important training that we train our pilots. And
so you need to glide the helicopter down.
You glide the helicopter. There are a lot of maneuvers that we teach for you to achieve range. You vary the airspeed, you turn, etc., etc.
Okay.
So when we do training, every day we will cut the engine to teach the student how to land in case the engine fails.
Okay.
Normally this is done at the end of your flight training. Every 1 hour you train, the last 10 minutes is devoted to this auto rotation.
Okay.
Yeah?
What if the blade spin in the opposite direction?
No, because it can only go one way.
Yeah, only one way. Yeah. Does just like aeroplane, does the helicopter have ram air turbine?
No.
No, we don't have.
But bigger helicopter will have the APU.
APU, that's auxiliary power unit. This one is ram air turbine. We don't have that in the helicopters, like, because helicopters can stay still, so we really don't need that. Can we still land if the transmission system fail in the air?
Depending on how severe is the failure. If you lose your tail rotor meaning the tail drive shaft, for example, become broken or not functioning, there are certain drills that you are taught. You can train in simulator. You can simulate tail rotor control failure, where you no longer can use your rudder pedal or your yaw pedal to control the pitch of the tail rotor for you to execute a safe landing. This is also taught during your basic flying phase. Yeah.
Okay, I will stop it here. You go ahead and continue, and then we'll take again later.
Okay. Next, a very important system and a very expensive system also is the avionics. Yeah. So basically, in the cockpit where the pilot sit, you have the communication system. You have radios. Radios normally there are 3 types. You have the VHF, very high frequency radio. Then you have the UHF, ultra high frequency, and you have the HF. Then at the same time, to reduce the pilot workload, all these systems is integrated into the cockpit. Yeah, you have the automatic direction finder for navigation. You have the VOR, which is VHF omnidirectional range for the pilot to navigate. You have distance measuring equipment. You have the initial navigation system. You have the Doppler. You have the global positioning system. So in modern helicopters, all are integrated into 1 or 2 displays for you to, and they have clusters. You have the radio cluster, you have the navigation dash cluster, etc. And also most of modern helicopters will have the multi-function displays. Then you have the electronic flight instrument system as opposed to the old analog system in the old aircraft like the Nuri that I fly a lot in the Royal Malaysian Air Force. Yeah. So here I would like to tell the boys, one of a very good career path that you can follow is to become a system integrator. Yeah. How to integrate all this equipment into the cockpit so that we can have our own integration. For all the helicopters that we buy, whether it is civilian or military, it is already integrated by the manufacturer. The Royal Malaysian Air Force, up to a certain extent, we try to integrate some of the system on our own. Yeah. So this one career path. In the Malaysian Aerospace Blueprint for 2030, this is general knowledge for the student out there. We have 5 aerospace clusters. We have the maintenance, repair, and overhaul cluster. We have the training and education. And we also have system integration. We have manufacturing. So for boys that are in university, you can either become an engineer or licensed aircraft engineer to work in MRO companies like mine, or you can work in a manufacturing company like Spirit Aerosystem, yeah, which manufacture parts. So do read about this so that you can be guided into what you want to be when you complete your school. For licensed engineers, basically we have 2 types. One is for avionics, the other one is Rmaf. So you have to be licensed by the Department of Civil Aviation, or they call it CAM now. Yeah, you have to complete, I think, 13 or 14 modules. Then you have to do OJT for 2 years. And my company provide OJTs for students from MIAC and other institutions. Yeah. So a very good career is to go into avionics engineer, or better still as a avionics integrator. Okay, next. This is to illustrate the difference between the old avionics, yeah, in the helicopter and the new one. On the left is the one that is similar to the Sikorsky or the Nuri that I fly. It is all analog. You have at the middle there the engine system, all the temperatures, pressure, etc. And you have the vertical gyro or artificial horizon. You have the RCDI, rate of climb and descent indicator. Then you have also the SP indicator. At the bottom is your navigation, the BOR, ADF, etc. So you see, there is a huge difference, yeah, between the old avionics in helicopters compared to those that they have in modern helicopters. Okay. Next. So before I show this, before that, the reason why you have all arrangement in this in the cockpit for the pilot is for you to do a very good man-to-machine interface for you to perform your mission. Yeah. When you do your flying, it is related to how much workload the pilot have to accept when they do certain mission. By having a very good integrated system in the cockpit, it very much reduce the pilot workload because it affects safety. Yeah. So when I go to the how we evaluate helicopters later on, we'll talk about what is meant by pilot workload. So the next few slides will show you the rotor configuration. Yeah. Here is the EC225, which is, can we go back to the previous one, please? Only single main rotor, and you have a tail rotor. Next. The Chinook have 2 rotors. Yeah. You see very big main rotor system there, and another big one at the back, and minus the tail rotor, because the rotor will counter the torque, yeah, of the other rotor. So you do not need a tail rotor. In a single configuration, the tail rotor is required to counter the torque when the blade spin. Yeah, that's why you have the tail rotor. Next. This is coaxial. You see, there is also no tail rotor because both the main rotor blade spin in a different direction. So the torque is cancelled out. Next. Then you have the intermeshing on the K-Max, yeah? Same, no tail rotor because the other blade will cancel the torque produced by the other blades. Okay, this is as far as the rotor configuration is concerned. And for those who are interested, you can always go into the internet and Google all these helicopters. They are super duper machine, which is suited to their various tasks and roles. Yeah. Next. This is a bit heavy. I hope some of you can understand this. Because I have been asked many times, the moment you mention you are a helicopter pilot or you are a helicopter test pilot, they will ask why this helicopter is good, why this helicopter is not good, why don't the government or the Air Force buy this helicopter? So to answer this question, basically you buy helicopters depending on what you want to use it for. Yeah. So the final thing is suitability for the intended mission and role. This mission and role I will cover later. Yeah, I will cover later. Next.
Dato, can I just stop there? Since you mentioned about the type of helicopters, what you want to buy. There's one question here. Is it possible to make the chopper quiet? So you can only hear them when you are above you.
They try, but the problem with helicopters, the blade is turning very fast. For example, when I flew the Bell 412, we do steep turn, very steep turn, 60 degrees angle of back. You see, there'll come a time at certain speed where the blade will reach the max number, the Mach number. Then it will stall. So most helicopter blade is spinning at almost 0.8 Mach.
But the sound of it?
The sound is very high.
So it has to be there. Very difficult to reduce the sound.
Because there is a flapping hinge, on the blade. You see, when the blade rotates, it will continue flapping throughout the 360 degree cycle. Why it has to flap? Because to prevent the blade from stalling. So when you turn the helicopter very steep, there will be a retreating blade stall. This is when the sound start coming in.
So because of the changes of the configuration, the sound changes.
Yeah, the blade will continue flapping throughout the 360 degree.
Okay, the one more related to that is what type of fuel that the helicopter use?
We use after.
Fuel, F-gas.
Yeah,
F-gas is actually called aviation gas. Aviation gas.
F-gas is for piston engine. For turbine engine, we use aviation turbine or after.
After, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, yeah, go ahead and continue.
Okay, next. So, as a test pilot, this is what I do. We and my team, we do this. Yeah, we have been to a few countries to evaluate helicopters for the Royal Malaysian Air Force. Yeah. First, you look at the performance. This you read from the flight manual. Yeah? Then you look at the avionics. And the most important part of the evaluation is the stability and control, which will tell you the handling qualities. How well the helicopter behave for certain mission. Then for military, you also look for mission equipment. Yeah. So you have a lot of mission equipment. For example, you have the guns fitted to the helicopters. You have rocket can be fitted. You have your self-protection system where you put chaff and flare when people fire missile at you. Then you also have radar warning receiver, missile approach warner. So all these are incorporated in military helicopters, especially those with an attack role. Yeah. Next. Just to illustrate how we do evaluation, you can see there, the end user will define what is the mission. Yeah. They want to do A or B or C. For example, they say for transport only. Then the test team will devise a test plan to test all this. So all your mission will be broken down into mission task element. Then when you fly, basically you're talking about two tasks the pilot is doing. A fully attended operation. Where like Captain Kanan, when you fly, you are navigating, autopilot is on, you cruise until you come to the airport for you to land. In the military, you have also divided attention operation, where you want to use, for example, the helicopter gunship to shoot tanks. You are navigating, you are flying, and you are aiming your nose into the tank that you want to fire. Then it is called a divided attention operation. Then, of course, when doing all this mission, there are also precision tasks. For example, when you have to do winching, rescue over a ship, it is very precise. You have to position the helicopter above the deck of the ship. Your crewman will winch your hoist down, put the stretcher, pick up. This is a very precision task. Then, of course, there are aggressive tasks, especially for military helicopters, where you want to fire rockets, you want to fire guns, etc., etc. Yeah. And you also operate in good visual environment as well as degraded visual environment. So the test pilot and his team will sit down and discuss with the end user what you want to do with these helicopters. Then we will plan the test plan. Yeah. Can we go to the next slide? So to illustrate the example of what we do, yeah, when you do evaluation, I give you the mission helicopter is VIP flight. Okay. So the mission task element, when you start your task, you have to start up the helicopter. You have to taxi to the runway from where you park the helicopter. You have to hover. Then you will climb, cruise, descend, hover again, and taxi back to the position where you want to offload your VIP. So we will assign, we ask the user, where are you going to use this helicopter? What are the mission task elements that you want to have the desired performance? Yeah. So I've shown here for taxi, for example, depending on where you operate, you will set what are the limitations. For example, I give here maintain taxi line plus minus 1 feet if you are operating in a very confined space. But if you are operating in a very big airfield, no issue. You can have accuracy of plus minus 3 feet. Likewise, your heading, for example, 5 degrees plus minus. Then the team, the pilot will fly the mission. Yeah. Likewise, when you hover, you can define, okay, I want to hover 10 feet plus minus how many feet. Then lateral position, plus minus how many feet. Then the pilot will fly the mission and he will give rating. And this rating is depending on the Cooper-Harper rating scale. Yeah. So you will have the rating for each mission task element. Then at the end, they will make recommendation to say, for this mission, the aircraft or the helicopter meet all the desired performance that you have specified to the pilot. Yeah. So let me share this Cooper-Harper rating scale. And this Cooper-Harper rating scale on the next slide. Yeah. Next slide, please. Mr. Ramesh. Okay. You see here, you have rating of 1 to 10 here. Yeah. See, this is all pilot input. Yeah. So can we have slightly bigger? I cannot see. Okay. If you look at figure number 1, for whatever mission that you wanted to do, it's written that pilot compensation is not a factor, meaning the helicopter is so good. Yeah. For example, when you taxi, the aircraft will maintain heading irrespective of where the wind is coming from. So a typical pilot report when you do this sort of thing is to taxi to achieve the desired performance, rudder or the yaw pedal don't have to be applied throughout the taxi phase. I mean, the helicopter is very good. Yeah. Then as soon as the pilot workload increase, meaning the worst case scenario normally for military evaluation, if anything below 4. You see? Because a lot of workload is required by the pilot to maintain or to achieve the desired performance. Yeah. So this is where there is always a big argument on how we evaluate helicopters. So in my service life, I've done, I think, quite a number of evaluation. And I've even been to Parliament, I've been to SPRM, because people reported that I'm biased in my evaluation. But our report normally is always foolproof. Yeah, it's always foolproof. Yeah, I've been called by the minister, etc., etc. So the point here for the younger guys is be professional in whatever you do, and nobody can question your decision. Yeah, be professional, and to be professional, you have to know what you are doing. To do that, you have to learn a lot. Yeah, and learning nowadays is very easy because a lot of access. Yeah, through the internet, etc., etc. Okay, next. I'm going to go very quickly on the Air Force. Yeah, this is in the public domain. I hope the Air Force does not complain. You have the Chief of the Air Force. You have the 4 commanders. Yeah, Air Ops Commander. You have the Air Logistic Commander. You have the Air Training Commander, the Reserve. Then for our Air Force, basically you have 2 divisions. Number 1 division is in West Malaysia, and number 2, or Semenanjung is the proper word to use, and number 2 division is in Sabah and Sarawak. Then you have all the bases. In Semenanjung, you have Butterworth Air Base. I was the base commander for Butterworth Air Base in 2007. Sorry, in 2014, 15, and 16. Subang Air Base, I was the commander there in 2007. We have Gong Kedak, we have Kuantan, and in Sabah and Sarawak, you have Kuching and Labuan. Next. These are the inventory. This is also in the public domain, and you have the fighters Su-30, you have the Hawk, you have the F-18, you have the A400M, C-130, CN-235, and the Beechcraft 200. Helicopters, we used to have the Nuri as well as the 725, but they have terminated the services of the Nuri. And for trainers, you have PC-7 Mark II and also EC-120. Next. These are the helicopter missions. Yeah. For civil, you have transport or VIP transport. You have search and rescue, offshore transport. For TV news channel, this is mostly overseas. You have aerial photography, timber logging, where you can extract timber from the jungle with minimum environmental damage by using helicopters. You have aerial firefighting, where you fight fires with helicopters. And for military, you have battlefield support, combat, search and rescue, special operation, where we send our commando in for their ops. Casualty evacuation, we have air display, and also we do training. Next. Okay, I think we are coming to the end, 4:40 already. These are the helicopters in the Air Force inventory. I started flying helicopters in 1982 with the helicopter at the bottommost on your left hand. Then for our advance, we go to the LWAC. Then you have the Nuri and you have the 725. The 725 is the only fleet that is flying in the Air Force now. Next. The Nuri is very versatile. As you can see, it can do hoisting for rescue. It can do underslang. It can land in the jungle. This is where I work most of my flying career. We send food to the army. We send their artillery guns. We rescue them when they got shot by the communists. We take people out from the landing points. Yeah, when they are sick, we use for parajumping. We supply food and equipment to ships. So it is a very versatile machine. Yeah. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Do we have time, Captain?
Yeah, we have. Go ahead. Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to show a few photos. Yes, see, you talk about the journey.
Yeah, go ahead.
I came from a very small kampung in Kelantan. I moved to Kuala Lumpur in 1968. I studied at Sekolah Ampang. Those who are in KL will know how notorious the school is. Then I went to Malay College, Kuala Kangsar. Did my SPM there. Then I went to UK. Next. However, I didn't graduate. Too much fooling around. Or, to be honest with you guys, I was not interested to become an engineer. But my mother insists that I go and do this course to become an engineer. So when I didn't make it, I tak tahan. I came back, asked my mother permission to join the military. So I joined the Air Force. Finally, she gave me her blessing. Yeah. Next picture, please. This is where I joined the Air Force in 1982. You see, this is for the boys out there. You want to become pilot, military officers or engineers, you have to be fit and not too weird about it. Yeah, you have to play a game. Otherwise, you're going to fail your training. Yeah. So now you see pilot, when my time, all very kurus one, very thin. Yeah. Now when I take student in 2005, I become the commander. You see most of the boys are very plump. So we have to put them through a lot of training to make them fit. Yeah. Next. This is my first tour at number 3 Squadron. I stayed there for 4 years. Supply food to the army in the border areas. We still have communists at that time. Every 2 weeks, we will send food into the jungle. And I also extracted a lot of soldiers who are being shot, who are being blown off by booby traps, etc. And I take out dead bodies also from the jungle of Gube, Batu Melintang, banding, etc., etc. Yeah. Next,
Where is the squadron?
number 3 squadron is Batu Air Base.
Okay. Alright.
It operated 12 Nuri when I was there. Yeah. So now after 3 squadron, I went to number 5 squadron in Labuan. So these are the pictures when I was there, and we supply the Navy with food every 2 weeks from Labuan at their station 5 in Terumbu Layang-Layang. Yeah. When the weather is bad, it is terrible to fly there. November, October, December, January, and at that time the Nuri only have the ADF captain. You imagine you are homing to an ADF when the weather turns bad. It's almost impossible, but we managed. We managed. Yeah. Next. Then I was lucky enough to be selected by the Air Force, which I'm very grateful to be sent to National Test Pilot School. This is where I got my test pilot qualification. So theoretically, I can certify an aircraft. In Malaysia, is to make a helicopter, to manufacture a helicopter. I can do the testing with my team to certify the helicopter, either Part 27 or Part 29 regulation. Yeah, because this is what we are taught in test pilot school. The guy who gave me the scroll is the president of Experimental Test Pilot Association. Yeah. And at the bottom is my instructor, John Hagan, and the wife. And this is a lot of sacrifice. Yeah? I left 2 of my children in Malaysia, brought 2 of them to the US. So, RMC boys, I think, who are here, military is not for everybody. You need to sacrifice a lot of your time, your family, so that you can pursue your military career. Next. So, upon graduation in 1995, I've been to a lot of countries. On the top right-hand corner, I was in Germany to evaluate the Malaysian Army helicopter procurement for their light observation helicopter. Bottom right, I was sent to Russia to evaluate the Mi-17 for the Nuri replacement. And the left-hand corner was when I do the pre-delivery flight for Malaysian Air Force helicopter, the 725 in Mangian. Next. This is my tour as base commander Batua before I retire. That is during my farewell dinner. At the bottom, when you have Hari Raya, you go to the front line and give Hari Raya goodies to your boys. Yeah. Next. Of course, you receive a lot of VIPs. Yeah. This is the chief of the Australian Air Force. At the bottom there is the governor of Australia who came to visit us. And of course, you have all these Perdana Menteri, the Timbalan Perdana Menteri. So it's a full-time job, yeah, as base commander. Next. Now a very short video on the various type of military helicopters for those who keen to become military pilots. Can we have the video, please?
Is there a sound?
I cannot hear them.
Yeah.
You can go to the internet, boys, and see this. This is the Hatek helicopter. This is the Cobra, made by Bell. This is the Chinook, for transport helicopter, operated a lot in Afghanistan. This is the LOH, the Little Bird, which the Malaysian Army is buying. It is basically a Hughes aircraft. Utility helicopter, I think this is the Black Hawk. Yeah. Then you have the maritime helicopter. This is the Seahawk, operated by the US Navy. This is the multi-role, I'm not sure. I think this is the Apache. This is basically an attack helicopter. This is a Q, I think this is the Dauphin, made by Airbus. So you can check out more, yeah? Okay, I think that's all I have. Now we can have all the questions and answers.
Yeah, okay, Dato, thanks a lot. We have one question here. What is the, let me see, okay, this one is, if we study aeronautical engineer, what type of career can we apply?
You can become aeronautical engineer, you can design aircraft, you can design helicopters. One of my flight test engineer, General Razid, Major General Razid, RMC, went to Glasgow. He is now the Assistant Chief of Staff for Engineering in the Royal Malaysian Air Force. And he also my flight test engineer. We went to US together. So most of the evaluation that I did with General Razik. Yeah.
Okay.
And there also a career in the Air Force. If you are aeronautical engineer, you can always can go to UPNM. You see, we take pilot from UPNM. Yeah. So
Yeah. So to join the Air Force now, you need to go to UPNM, is it?
yes.
So that's a must now.
During my time, they have a few intake line stream. Either after SPM you apply, or you are from RMC you apply. They all go to military training in Sebatang Kara, and the Navy will go to Lumur. The Army will go to in Johor. Then those flying will go to the Royal Malaysian Air Force Flying School. But now I think the intake is only for graduate officers from UPNM, from the 3 services. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so UPNM is National University of Defence, UPNM.
University Pertahanan National Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to become aeronautical engineer, I think they have. Do they have a aeronautical engineering course in UPNM now?
I'm not sure, but there is one in UPN also.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. What is the most powerful helicopter?
Powerful for what?
Yeah. I don't know.
About firepower, you see, for the American you have the Apache. Yeah, it is armed to the teeth. Okay. Then for the Russian you have the Kamov, you have the Mi-17. Later on you have the Mi-8. Yeah, where it can be fitted with various weapons, rocket, guns, missile, etc., etc. You see, military helicopters are very expensive. The one that we bought for the Royal Malaysian Air Force, one helicopter costs 100 million ringgit. Yeah? And you talk about the Apache, it can be, I do not know, 150 or 200. We do not know. Yeah? It is very expensive. A typical medium-sized helicopter like the 139, about 8 million US. Yeah.
So it depends on what role that we want to use the helicopter. So we need to know what we want to do, and then we go and choose the helicopter accordingly. And then within that, they have different range of helicopters. Then you can choose how much money you have. Then you can just pay accordingly. Yeah. All right. Okay. There's one more question. Is quite technical. Is there such EMP protection for helicopters, electromagnetic pulse?
Oh yeah. We do what we call electromagnetic EMI mapping. Before you integrate all the system, you will do mapping.
Okay.
So you have EMI protection. That's why military helicopters are specific to military, and the standard that we use is MIL H8501. That is the standard. It is equivalent to your civil aeroplane. It is FAR 525.
Yeah.
It is very, very well defined in the specification.
Can I have a question?
Okay, next one. Next one, Dato'. Kalau jadi pilot dalam TUDM, kepantasan untuk naik pangkat.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, up to captain, everybody can achieve. Yeah. For the pilot in the Royal Malaysian Air Force, when you join, you are lieutenant, I think, if you are from UPNM. Then you get automatic promotion if you pass your lieutenant to captain exam. Okay, after you get your lieutenant rank, you have 5 papers. In my time, I don't know whether this has changed. You have to pass this paper. Then when you reach 7 years for pilot, you become captain. When you become captain, you have to sit for another exam, called captain to major exam. Yeah? You pass 13 years, you become major, automatic. Okay, depending on whether there is post available. From then on, it is up to how well you perform as pilot and as leaders. Because not everybody is what we call command material. You have to command. When you are co-pilot, it's okay. You become captain, it's okay, because somebody, the flight commander, will still look after you. But when you become flight commander, you start looking after others. Then you become squadron commander, you have the whole squadron to take care. For example, if you're commanding officer of number 10 squadron now, you are lieutenant colonel. You have 8 aircraft under inventory, you have maybe 30 pilots, crewmen, co-pilots, etc. Then from Lieutenant Colonel to it is all depend on how well you perform. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the thing that you can, for the students, they can develop at the school or college or university level is this leadership skill. I
Yes.
think eventually it will come to that thing that people will look at it when it comes to promotion and salary increment and all that thing. So that's one thing that you need to build. When that's why you need to join all the school activities. Society and things like that. That will help you a lot.
For pilot, I think academically, you have to have a very strong physics, mathematics, and of course the lingua franca for aviation is English.
Mm.
So these are the three things. So if you are in secondary school, please focus on it. I was very fortunate, very good teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Another one is communication skill. You have to communicate well.
Yeah. Okay, Dato,
Another
one more
question.
very interesting question. Have you ever been through a life-threatening mission?
I think I was very fortunate. If I can recall, there's one when I was flying in Gunung Kinabalu. The weather was very bad. So the squadron want me to come back from, I think from Sandakan. So if you are familiar with Sabah, from Sandakan, we went to Beluran. Then we went to Telupit. Then the weather was very bad. The cloud base was about 500 feet. So as aircraft commander, I have to decide to land in Telupit and sleep there, or try to go back to Labuan because the next day the helicopter is required. So I decided from Telupit to go to Ranau. Still I cannot go through. So my crewman or my co-pilot suggested, sir, why don't we climb higher? Okay, we go BMC because there is a procedure you adopt, right? You do vertical climb to see if you reach 8,000 or 9,000 feet or 10,000 feet, then you can pass through to Kota Kinabalu and go back to Labuan. So we decided, not only me, three of us decided, okay, sir, we climb to 10,000 feet. And you have Gunung Kinabalu on your right, we end up at 12,000 feet. Still, there is a very thick cloud that pass through to KK. So I told my co-pilot, Captain Kalai, Selva, Kalai, you pray, I'm going to pray also. So there'll be a small hole for us to fight through. So we make a few turns. Then Alhamdulillah, there was a small opening. We punched through. By the time we land in KK, it was already dark. It was night flying. Otherwise, I do not know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's very safe because you determine whether the helicopter is everything or not for you to fly.
So one of the things that affects flying a lot is the weather. So that's why when you are in the training, that's one of the subject that you will learn is about weather.
Yeah.
So we cannot run away from weather. When you fly, basically you need at least the air. Without the air, the helicopter or the aircraft cannot take off. So that's the science of it. So that's why you need to understand science. When you're studying.
So actually, since you mentioned science,
yeah,
the helicopter flying is science.
Yeah.
The pilot have to have the art of flying. That is something that is very difficult for you to attain. You need a lot of practice. In the Air Force, you are very lucky. Every month, you are given 3 hours for you to train. 3 hours every month. That is a lot of hours. Okay? And you have to really optimize what you do.
Yeah.
For you to become good.
Yeah. Okay. What does it? This is very general from Faris. What does it take to be a pilot? I think we discussed some of it. If you want to add on some of the other things, if you have.
Number one, you have to have the academic qualification. Number two, you must be healthy. Meaning, if you are a sportsman, it's easier. Then you have to keep healthy until whatever age you want to fly. I was able to fly until I was 60 because I was healthy. The moment you are not healthy, then the Air Force will impose limitation. You can only fly a 2-crew aircraft, for example. So you can no longer fly a single aircraft. But I want to tell everybody young there, I mean, from my kampung, it is almost impossible at that time for us to dream to become pilot. So if you want to become a pilot or whatever, you have to work hard. You have to study hard. You have to play hard, and nothing will come very easy. My batch went for flight. Only 8 graduated. When I was in Alustar, 40 comes in. Maybe 18 graduated. So it is not easy. And you have to have the mental tenacity, because the army put a lot of pressure on you. Yeah. If you go for company, it's okay. Maybe your ops commander, flight ops will keep on, But in the military, the training is very tough.
Yeah. So in general, that you need to have the academic qualification. You also need to have the mental and the physical, and also the academic. So all this, you basically, I mean, from my experience, talking and engaging with pilots, you must be somehow. You need to be like all rounder, So these are some of the skills that you can develop at the school level. You need to develop these skills at the school level. So these are the things that people look for when you go for a pilot interview also. What type of person, you must be able also to mix with other people. That's also social skill. You also need that. Okay. Right. Why don't Malaysia make our own helicopter?
Okay, good question. We have, I think, the know-how. You see, but the helicopter market in the whole world is controlled by, either Eurocopter, Agusta Westland, and you have Sikorsky, blah, blah, blah. So, for example, we can try, but it is very difficult for us to compete. It doesn't make sense, yeah? For example, Indonesia, they manufacture the CN235, yeah? They only sold 8 to Malaysia, and I think 10 or 12 to South Korea, and it closed shop. Because you cannot compete with the bigger players. Unless I've been proposing to some of my friends, we do joint venture with Singapore and Indonesia and Thailand. We have a very big consortium like what they have in Europe. They call it NATO helicopters, which French, Germany, Spain, and Dutch Fokker combine to manufacture the NH90, because the investment is very, very big. Yeah. But Indonesia has moved ahead of us. They are doing their own helicopter now. I was there, I think, last year. So the answer is yes, but it is not economically viable. Yeah, because of our ability to sell is very limited.
Yeah. So it's a big spending for research, and then you want to develop it. Of course, end of the day, any business, you want to look at the return of investment. You cannot just build two and then stop it. So that is the main thing. And also, when it comes to any flying machine, the requirement is very high, very, very high. So you want to clear that certification is very, very complex. So it will take a long process and a long investment. So the capability, I think, there is in Malaysia. We have people with knowledge, but whether we can market it, that's another question. Okay. We have one more. What is the fastest helicopter in the world?
Oh my God! I think the last time that I know is the Airbus X-Cube, which they show in Le Bourget Air Show. It is basically experimental. Helicopter don't have to go very fast actually. Because the role that it performs basically to transport people and to extract people from danger. So on average, the 725 it is cruising at 140 knots, which is to me good enough.
140 knots is about 250 kilometers an hour, around there.
1 knot is 1.85 nautical miles. It's almost 2 miles. So it is 250 to 160.
Around there.
Subang to Kuantan is about 45 to 50 minutes. Very fast.
There's another thing that I know is that the city that has the biggest number of helicopters in the world is Sao Paulo in Brazil.
I don't know that.
I've flown in there a few times. That city is huge city, and because the traffic jam is so bad, almost every building, tall, high building, they have a helipad on top of it. So all these businessmen travel just using the helicopter from building to building. To avoid that. So that's one of the things. Okay, I don't have any more questions here.
There is one comment though, Captain.
Go ahead.
This is something that must be shared. Awesome lah, Dato. This is a comment from one of your participants.
Yeah.
So fun. But
Oh, okay.
you must
This is.
know that.
There's one more. Dato, can we attend RMAF flying school multiple times if we don't make it first time?
No. They will remaster you to other trades.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
for example, my batch 12 hours, 4 fail the flying phase, 1 become admin officer, 1 become air traffic officer, and the other one become logistic officer. So you will be restreamed into another trade, we call it.
So you will remain within the Air Force, but you will be sent to another division or trade.
Yeah, another discipline. Yeah.
Okay, we have few questions coming up again. Is there any way to become a test pilot in Malaysia?
Oh my God. You see, there's only 6 or 7 test pilot school in the world. Yeah. Some are commercial.
Autopilot is on helicopter.
You have ITPS in Canada, and you also have, but most are military. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that I went is commercial. It's called National Test Pilot School. In 1994, when I was sent there with General Razid, it cost the Malaysian government 2.4 million ringgit.
How long was your training?
It's supposed to be for 14 months, but the Air Force have no money. So I did the bridge course in 10 months. We flew 26 different types of helicopters in 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, fixed wing as well as rotary wing. Then when you qualify, I mean, you get your, if you have gone for 14 months, you're going to have a master's degree in flight test technique. I didn't have, I got a certificate, but it is good enough for me to perform my role as test pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it costs about 4 million ringgit.
Oh, okay. I've flown with one of my co-pilot, one of the ex-military Singapore Air Force military guy. He was trained in America, one of the test pilot school in America, and he used to tell me that in a day he can fly from a balloon, then in the evening he'll be flying a fighter. So they will fly everything in one day. So they have so much of skills, just to see when you're talking about these handling qualities. So they need to have this feel that all these different type of helicopters.
For those interested, you can Google National Test Pilot School in Mojave, California.
Yeah.
Captain Kanan, shall we open the floor to anyone who want to off their mic and just ask a question freely?
Yeah, okay, if you want to let that, yeah, go
I think
ahead.
there was one person, Muhammad Faris, wanted to ask a question, I think, but I'm not sure. If you have any question, please unmute and ask your question.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How can a helicopter hover when it's upside down?
Good question. Okay, right, thank you. You can unmute again, we will answer that. Can a helicopter hover upside down?
Cannot.
Yeah, okay, cannot do that.
It can do upside down when it is doing the loop. That also with helicopter with a rigid rotor.
Yeah, I saw the Rovolk do the loop at the Lima 93. That was very impressive, very low level.
I evaluated the Reebok in Lima.
Beautiful aircraft. Too bad we didn't buy any. $40 million at the time.
So it's very expensive because of the financial crisis. I was also transferred to the team in 1998, but it was cancelled because of the financial crisis in 1997. Yeah?
Okay, Dato, I will continue. One more here. Can we be a pilot if we are wearing spectacles?
No.
No. Okay. So maybe they're looking at you are wearing now. So they maybe
not in the military. I started wearing glasses in 1999.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because for the military, there's some limitation. When you use night vision goggle, for example. So glasses going to be a very, very difficult.
Do they allow contact lens now?
Not that I know of. You have to have a natural eyesight 20/20.
Yeah. Because the thing is that, if something happens, if you have all these, it will disturb your performance. Yeah. Okay. Can we attend? Okay, I've seen that. Okay. Would you like to hear opinion about MD530G helicopter? Will the army buy it?
Okay. I think Minda decided to buy. Yeah. I'm not going to share my thought on this because the decision has been made.
Okay, okay, all
But
right. We leave it.
I did advise the army. I said this is not the right one for you. Anyway, in the military, you know, sometimes you can only go up to a certain level. One decision is made, then you have no option.
Yeah.
It's a good helicopter. I flew the Hughes. I flew the Hughes 500. I think 2 different types. Yeah, a good helicopter with, but the pilot workload is very high because it have a semi-rigid rotor. Okay, so you cannot have trim release, you know, where you can do manual fly. You have to use the Chinaman cap, which is electrical trim.
Yeah, okay.
Very tight. Yeah.
So it's a difficult aircraft to fly.
I have a question. This is my own question. Tuan Mus, I was thinking the integration of unmanned aircraft into the non-segregated airspace. You as a helicopter pilot, what are your thoughts on having drones in the air? I know it increases risk greatly for manned aircraft, but I'd just like to know your outlook on this where drones are concerned.
Okay, I think yes, it have its challenges, but if our air traffic, you know, control have to manage this. Yeah. Meaning, depending on which area they are operating. Okay, outside control airspace, no issue. Yeah, but in control airspace, there will be an issue because helicopters fly from ground level up to 2,000, 3,000. Yeah. So there must be some means to separate this traffic. Yeah.
Current challenge of CAM.
It's a management, like, no, it's a management of
Management.
Right. Okay, Dato, one more. If we don't take physics, can we become a pilot?
It's difficult because a lot of physics is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least you must have the basic science course, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why Dato, this kind of talks is that we want to reach out to the secondary kids to let them understand how important the STEM subjects are, because if they want to become a pilot, you got to open your range and go into the science subjects and then make a decision, because if you're in a different stream, you can't achieve the dream that you want to, because you haven't made a decision. So some of the, like just now, one of the kids, they were like around 12 years old, below that. Now these are the decision pathways for them to make to actually ceburi in the bidang science, STEM especially.
Yeah.
If I can just add on to that, one important point, because even the school teachers may not be aware of this, because now you have a lot of combination of subjects, you know, so they have the option to drop off physics, for example, and then too late. I've come across quite a few cases when they want to do a particular course because they didn't do that. So the point is that even teachers are not aware what are the requirements, in this case, to become a pilot. So this is something that, you know, that's why when we bring in the industry experts, we hope some of them who have learned, who have followed the lesson today, would know that this is a prerequisite.
Yeah, the reason that you know, like what Dato said, you know, English you need, okay, physics you need, mathematics you need. If you don't have this, if you are not strong in these subjects, what happens is even if you get in, you will struggle and high chance that you will fail.
For
Right.
example, when we attended the instructor course, with MCE, with HSC also have problem when you come to high-speed aerodynamics.
Yeah.
You know, even though I keep telling them it's Bernoulli theorem, you know, you have the slot, you have the slot, all this, so that the boundary layer will still, you know, stick to the wing before it's separated.
Yeah.
So if you have no basic grounding in physics, then you're gonna have problem.
Yeah. Physics is, you know, physics is the fundamental for all the advanced knowledge. So you need to have a good grasp of that. Okay. Okay, are we still can be a pilot if we can do the eye LASIK surgery?
That one I cannot answer. I don't know what is the for commercial is it acceptable?
Commercial, depending, I think they allow to certain limit, you know, because once you do this type of surgery, the medical will be a little bit strict, you know. When they do every year, they want to check, you know, whether your eye is balanced, you know, they do additional check, right? But there are some guys who do it later on, but it becomes complex, and you need to get advice from the aviation doctors. There are doctors which are trained for aviation, so you need to go and check with them, aviation doctors. All right. Okay. How much weight can an Apache helicopter lift? We do not know this. You need to Google this.
You have to Google this.
Yeah, you have to Google this. But I would have answered this if the next session, because my last flight I flew, my co-pilot was an Apache pilot. He was an ex Singapore Air Force Apache pilot. The last flight I did. But next time if I see him, I fly. But I don't think
the biggest helicopter is the Mi-26.
Yeah.
155,000 pounds. So that is a very big helicopter.
Do helicopters have anti-freeze system? I do not know what they mean by that.
Yeah. We call it anti-icing. We have
anti-icing, yeah.
So, but the problem with anti-icing in Malaysia, we cut it out because it eats your engine power.
Yeah.
So when you put on the anti-icing, I think easily you're going to lose about 2 to 4% of your engine power. So in our weather, you do not need it. But when you go to colder weather, yes, you have the anti-icing system.
Yeah. Okay. Can you leave the cockpit when the autopilot is on?
No, because we always have co-pilot.
Yeah. But if you join military, they are always operational, so they're always flying. So unless they go on cruise, but then again, you can obviously probably you can go out for a while, but I'm not sure.
No, we go. Well, for example, when we do ferry flight from Kuching to Subang, the Sikorsky have a small tube where you can pee inside.
Yeah.
The Nuri autopilot is very good. You can put on the autopilot, you set your heading, your altitude, then the co-pilot will man the helicopter while you go out and do the job.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah, can be done. Yeah. Okay. We can take, I think, probably another 10 minutes of question. Mr. Ramesh, yeah?
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, if Dato is okay.
If Dato is okay. Yeah, okay. How difficult is private pilot written exam?
You see, the difficulty depends on how hard you study. So, but it is something that is, to me, achievable if you put enough effort. Yeah. I've seen one of my friend, my late friend. He took SPM, I think, 2 times. He is so determined to become pilot. He went to Manila. He got his basic ab initio wing. He was mass pilot and he came back for IRT, I think, 5 times before he can get. Then from co-pilot to captain also, I think. But he is so determined. Yeah. In the end, he left Malaysia Airlines. He went to Etihad Airlines, and earned his living there. So meaning you must have the determination. Yeah. And nowadays it is all available online. You go to the CAM website, the syllabus is there.
Yeah.
You can always download all the subject that is required for you to take to become pilots.
Okay, can helicopters fly in extreme weather condition?
Depending on how you define extreme.
This is minus 30 degrees Celsius.
I flew in Siberia at minus 17.
70.
No, 17.
17. Okay, minus 30.
I think if you go by standard, it is 25 ISA plus 25. Then I think minus 15. I think that is the, if I remember correctly, the criteria. ISA is about 15 degrees. You can go plus that one and minus.
Yeah. Probably there are helicopters which can fly, but the problem is that is because the temperature is so low, a lot of icing related, and then safety issues comes in. Do we choose to be a fighter pilot and a rotary wing pilot in RMAF? How do they choose? Muted.
You're muted.
When I joined in 1982, the old days before I joined, you go to, they call it number 1 flight training center. You fly the Bulldog, for about 180 hours or 100 hours. Then they stream you into helicopters. But when I want to join in 1982, the school have a lot of backlog. So we are a few batch of, we say, all go direct to helicopters.
Mm.
So in the Air Force, you will join number 1 FTC, you will fly the fixed wing. From there, they will make selection who will go to helicopters, who will go to fighters, who will go to transport.
So that means
Normally the cream will go to fighters.
so that means as a helicopter pilot, they can still be certified to fly fixed wing.
If you go and get your fixed wing rating, you can fly.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
fly
no,
with
the
fixed
thing
wing.
is that everybody will start with the fixed wing first.
Yes.
A basic training is always fixed wing. Then from there they will stream you. Unless you really wanted to go helicopter, probably you can apply and tell them you want to go helicopters.
So when I was the commanding officer, I think they flew until the basic navigation test, 100 hours.
Okay.
Because to save money, then they move to helicopter. They do another 65 hours conversion to helicopter, and they get their wing.
All right. This one from the RMC, Kuhan is asking what are the improvement that the RMAF can do to improve the defense in the aviation industry.
Okay, I think last month we sit down with MINDEF to look at the national defense policy, Dasar Pertahanan Negara. So this being looked into. So there be workshops to determine what the Malaysian Armed Forces require. Yeah. For the Army, for the Navy, as well as for the Air Force. So it is work in progress. You see, defense is a very expensive business. Yeah. So in our country, more money is spent on medical, on education, and health. So the budget for defense is quite limited. So that limits our ability to spend. Therefore, we cannot buy a lot of military assets.
Yeah. All right. What is the minimum service period in RMAF?
It used to be 13 years. But now I think when you come in for EPNL, you're going to be there until you are 60, depending on your rank.
Oh, okay. I think this one can be Google. Sharvin is asking that question. You can check that. Okay. So, but anyway, you want to go into military, you must go to UPNM. That's one of the requirement now. Yeah. Have you been into any war?
It is not a war actually, but while I was serving in Batu, I think the army is fighting the communist terrorists. I was posted to Batu in 1984. So we have SAR standby and we do ops where we send food to the army. Okay. So when the army fought with the communists, somebody get injured, we extract.
Yeah.
This is not war, they are small battle.
Yeah.
So we do that all the time. We take these people with broken leg, they got shot in their shoulders, etc., to Penang Hospital.
Yeah.
So that is what we call casualty evacuation. Yeah.
All right. So now it's 5:23. I think we can wrap up. Otherwise, it will, there's a few other questions, very basic questions. How much does it cost? That can be found out yourself. How to become a pilot? I think you can also Google that. Yeah. So that's some homework for you all to do yourself. Right? Okay. So I will just like to bring this to a conclusion. Mr. Ramesh, is that all right?
You are muted.
Yeah. No, I can't hear you.
You're muted. Ramesh, you're muted.
Sure. So
Yeah, okay.
please do the
All right.
closing.
So this, first of all, thanks for Dato Mustapha, the ex-Brig Gen Rmaf, for accepting my request. He was very kind. He also helped me in a few other things also. So thank you very much for him. And this, I think, generally this is a very, very, very good talk. He started with the fundamentals of science, Bernoulli, aerofoil, the aircraft control. Helicopter is a very complex machine, very agile machine. You can do a lot of things with helicopter. And then we also talked about some career, in avionics. Avionics is, sometimes the most cost of the helicopter is because of the avionics, how advanced system that you want inside that helicopter, especially the commercial helicopters. Right, and also he talked about test pilot. He himself is a test pilot. All these Cooper Harper and all that. So if you want to become a test pilot, it's also good that you have aeronautical engineering background, science and all that. All right, so that they will go and train you how to evaluate a helicopter. All right, some about the RMF structure, the TUDM. So types of aircraft is good that you go and Google that. What are the helicopters that is currently available? You know, there's always a renewal of helicopters and all that. When I was in my hometown, Sungai Petani, and I think probably you would have been flying there, Dato, because every day I will be looking outside my window from the school, from my house, looking at this Nuri coming up and landing, and the whole day you guys will be flying.
Yeah, that's our training area.
Yeah, so I will say that the reason I became pilot is because of that. Because every day from small boy, as much I can remember, I've been every day I see this helicopter. So that is one of the reason, you know, my passion build up. And every time I pass, you know, when I'm going to Butterworth, you know, when I'm going through that road, I will try to have a peep to look through what are the aircraft parked inside, because they will have this fencing, and then they will block the fencing. I couldn't see, so that's why sometimes I like to take bus so I can sit high, and then, you know. So eventually, when I was studying, and then I managed to go into one of my intern in Butterworth Air Force Base. So, you know, then I get closer to the aircraft, and eventually I managed to become a pilot also. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to build this ambition within yourself, number one. And then once you know what you want to do, then you need to work towards what are the requirements to achieve that, you know. So one of it is, you know, you need to study well, you need to put time and effort, and then you need to concentrate on subjects we mentioned a few times: English, science, mathematics, you know. And nowadays a lot of information available in the internet. You need to go and Google, and then read a lot of things. So that's all. Thanks a lot, Dato. Very interesting talk, and I think we have a lot of participation this time. We couldn't answer all of them. Some in Facebook and also I think in YouTube, which is assisted by Mr. William. So with that, I will end here, and I will pass it over to either probably Ramesh and Mr. William, and then they will conclude, and then we'll end the session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Captain. I'll later pass to William to give some comments, because this is also an area of his passion. He's very much into drones and anything to do with aviation. But what I want to say is, firstly, I'd like to thank all the participants. We had a record number of participants, 161 watching through the YouTube, and 95 of them who actually were watching live through this Google Meet. Thank you so much, Dato. Secondly, I would like to say that your topic was most relevant. You talked about the science of rotorcraft as well as the career path, and this is what our kids need to know, right? So as mentioned by moderator Captain Kannan, that was very, very well covered, you know. I must congratulate you for being so concise in the delivery of your presentation. Most impressive. The takeaway lessons that I see, and I think what our kids today have also should be able to take away from the session today: one, be professional. You have demonstrated that very well, and this is something that you have built over the years, you know, the physical fitness and all that. So discipline. So I think that's what the youngsters who are watching today, we have lots of them from Rmaf, I mean the Royal Military College, because we have a few school teachers who have come to our center, and I have them in my list, in our database. So they have taken interest because this is very relevant. So for students who are, you know, wanting a very good, bright future, I think Dato Tuan Mustapha is a role model, right? Number one. Learn well. Number two, communication skills. That's something that is very much lacking, and we hope by bringing this kind of a forum, STEM for All Makerspace can actually emphasize on this. So it is just not the knowledge, it is not how smart they are, but it also their communication skills. That has come across very strongly in your presentation as well, right? So with that, my last piece of announcement is that we promise those who participated in this webinar a certificate of participation. I have shared the link. So those who have joined us today in this and also in the YouTube, just click on it, and that's how you can claim your certificate. That's all for your information. A lot of people who join this session, they want to be incentivized. So we say, all right, pay close attention. Later on, we'll also have some quizzes. So with your kind permission, we will have this video recorded, shared on our STEM for All YouTube channel. And maybe we also drive more students to go and view that, learn something, and answer some of our quizzes. So that's our little role that we try to play in making learning much more enjoyable. All right. So I'll pass to William to add on some point of view.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. I think Mr. Ramesh has basically summed it all up. I only have 2 words to share with you all. I feel very inspired by the talk, and I'm sure everyone who has listened in feels the same. And inspired because a kampong boy from Kelantan able to make it to where you are today. So anything can happen. All you need is the inspiration, and be self-motivating as well. You have a goal, just go for it. At that note, I'd like to thank Dato once again very much for your talk, and also Captain Kanan for arranging this session, Mr. Ramesh. And we'll conclude here today. Please stay in touch with our channels online. Yes, Captain.
I just want to add on. Okay, for all the viewers, next week also we have a very interesting talk. Next week will be from one of my friend from Air Asia. Is a captain, a safety head of safety, Captain Link. He will join us with a very interesting topic. So next week, Saturday, 4 o'clock, and then the following week we have another Brigadier General. Probably Dato will also know. Dato Azizon is from the fighter. Brig Gen Azizon from Alostar. So he's gonna give us. He's supposed to join us today, but he said he just missed it because he was watching Olympic. So, so that will be towards the end of the month. And also we have also a talk on wind tunnel. Wind tunnel is also part of aviation. So we'll also this is very interesting because the person is going to give a talk is the so-called, I call him the father of wind tunnel in Malaysia, Mr. Hay, in industry technology in Malaysia. He's the first one to build a wind tunnel in Malaysia. So he's going to give a talk. All right, so join us every Saturday, 4 o'clock, and look out for all these posters through your teachers, or Mr. Ramesh will pass it along. All right, okay, with that, should we end here? Right.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
Next,
you, Dato.
we'll invite you to our center.
Yes.
I will take you and see.
Yeah, you can stay on for a while, Dato. The others will exit, so we will stop it here. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
So thank you.